Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Weekly Quick Facts with the Cobb County Extension Office. Today we're going to wrap up our winter weeds talk, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite winter weeds, henbit. This was also a winter weed that I picked up as a kid and added into our little bouquets that I gave to my mother. Now, just like any weed, obviously identification is important, and this one's pretty easy to identify, but also misidentify. It's a broadleaf weed, it's a winter annual weed, has a square greenish to purple stem, it's very hairy, and the flowers are reddish purple. They're quite pretty, actually. Now, this particular weed, it germinates in the fall and stays semi-dormant. It'll go through growth spurts during the winter whenever it's a little warm. It flowers in the spring. It typically dies off naturally when it gets really hot in mid to late summer. However, that means it's already put seeds in the ground for next year. Loves moist soil, so moist and poorly drained soil. Loves high fertility, and it also likes shade as well. Now, this weed is commonly mistaken. A lot of people even use the names henbit and dead nettle interchangeably. Now, both are members of the mint family. And they do look, the flowers are extremely similar, but when you look at them side by side, there's some very obvious differences in the leaf structure. But they have a similar looking stem as well. It's a square shape. It's very succulent, easy to crush. So it does make sense to get these two confused. Now, a little bit about the history on this particular weed. The leaves, stems, and flowers are edible. The name even derives from chickens being observed feeding upon it. Chickens really like it. So like chickweed, which is also a popular food source from chickens, henbit is also a popular food source. Now, this weed is very actually important in our environment. It's a popular early source of pollen and nectar for bees and hummingbirds. So for those people who have natural lawns, this is not necessarily a bad plant to have in your yard. Now, like common chickweed, this plant is not native to North America. It's actually from Europe, but it's been here so long it is naturalized. And I will also emphasize, despite the fact that the leaf, stems, and flowers are edible, we do not recommend eating any wild grown plants anywhere, regardless of their edibility. And that's because it can pose a very serious health risk. You do not know about the smog or pollution or the soil that it's grown up in, or even if that might have had chemicals sprayed on it directly. Do not eat any plants that you have not grown yourself specifically for the purpose of eating. Now, as far as control methods, regular core aeration will reduce that soil compaction and increase your drainage, so it'll reduce moist soil. Water your lawns appropriately. Follow your fertilizer soil test recommendations. This particular weed has a lot of trouble growing in dense, vigorous growing grass like zoysias and Bermudas. So maintaining a healthy lawn is one of the best things you can do to just keep this weed from ever showing up. Physically, this one's also fairly shallow rooted and easy to pull out, just like chickweed. It is not affected by mowing height, however. So, raising or lowering your mowing height is really not going to affect this plant as far as its growth. But being a broadleaf weed, there is a wide variety of effective post-emergence and pre-emergent chemicals available on the market to control it. But chemicals alone aren't really going to be your only form of control. Just use chemicals by themselves, eventually you're going to find yourself using more and more chemicals to fix a problem. And the reason that problem exists is because your lawn is declining, and that's giving you more holes in your yard as far as dead patches of grass. So it's always important to combine cultural, mechanical, and chemical when trying to deal with a weed issue. Some of the resources, again, I'm going to mention, check out the Georgia Turf webpage. It's a resource for almost all things grass here in Georgia. We have a beautiful publication from UGA on weed control in home lawns, and it does include this weed as well. And then Clemson has a nice little henbit fact sheet that just specifically talks about henbit and the ways of dealing with it in your own landscape or garden. And of course, as always, if you have this weed or you're dealing with any other issues in your lawn, garden, if you're dealing with pond issues or wildlife issues, please feel free to contact our office and let us know. And we can definitely help you out. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.